So I'll start. Welcome, everyone. I'll start by reading our mission, which is to help PTAs build institutional knowledge, to facilitate interaction between school PTAs, for the dissemination of information, and to encourage and facilitate outreach to other community groups. So welcome, everyone. I'm Rita Smith. I'm I'm acting president and secretary this year. Um, and yeah, and let's see. Do we want to go ahead and start with the math curriculum?
Sure.
I think. So our agenda for tonight, update math curriculum. So there is, let's see. We've got a community information session to launch the process to transform elementary math experience on February 2nd. So is that just next February? Yeah, I think that's next Monday from 5:30 to 7:30 at Washington Elementary. There's dinner, translation, and childcare offered. And there's a link to RSVP, which will get put into our agenda. Well, it already is in the agenda that got sent around. Um, I don't know, do we have any folks that that already know about this and are planning on going?
I'm planning on going. And
Okay.
I've got a group of people interested in going as well. As you know, like I've been very interested in evidence-based instruction because I think it's the most equitable thing that we can do for our students. And so when we go through these curriculum adoptions, I think that making sure that the community we have a broad range of community input and get good attendance to these events so that a broad range of perspectives can be heard. But I can tell you through my research there's a few things that I think are very, very important, which are explicit instruction. So don't do a 30-minute guessing game before you teach kids how to do the math function that is on the lesson plan for the day. Provide enough practice for fluency, especially at the foundational levels, because if you don't know your multiplication tables, then division becomes very difficult. So is like decimals and algebra. So there's some basic stuff that is really, really important. And the unfortunate situation is that the options from the California list are not excellent in this regard. A lot of them are inquiry based and discovery learning kind of based, and more about concept and things. Will always have Google at heart. So that goes counter to what evidence suggests, but that is the prevailing fad right now. And so we really do have to rally people and work hard as a community to encourage the best possible choices, either on or off that list, something that has some evidence of success. And almost none of them do. So, yay.
If I can speak, I thanks Lindsay for that. I think this was a topic of interest when Chris Allback came to present, and I know that we had some folks here interested. Someone had mentioned, "Hey, where's the making sure our curriculum also reaches a wider range of folks?" And so I know folks wanted us to follow up with this, and so I think what Rita and I had concluded was, instead of having Chris come back here, let's shoot out information to our community to get everyone involved in the community outreach that they're doing, and not have us be that go-between, but just rather to funnel that information. So it's great. I think Erin said you put a blurb in your school newsletter. I think that's great. I think some schools have had their own PTA, I think info nights. I think, Lindsay, like at Craigmont, we had a viewing of that documentary about math in the US. I think Rosa Parks also had that movie night as well, and spurred a good discussion amongst their PTA. So I think that's a good, pathway for us to help encourage, to your point, Lindsay, involvement from parents about making sure our curriculum, that we implement is meaningful.
I just don't think that people are using frank speak when it comes to curriculum design and the equity issues when kids are subjected to discovery learning, because when kids are asked to discover the pathways through math and reading, then you don't provide a level playing field. The people who have like support at home are going to come with the prerequisites to succeed under those conditions. And the people who don't have that for any which reason struggle, feel withdraw, become dependent on their peers, they quietly give up, and then they get blamed for not having motivation or confidence when the design of the curriculum, instruction, and the assessment should be the one that is questioned. And so that's what films like Counted How miss. They are a feel-good film about belonging instead of exploring the ways in which this theory of instructional design has harmed our kids. We're moving away from it in reading. We should be moving it away from it in math. However, we are not, because the systems are not set up for us to succeed yet. There are not really any curriculum for us to choose that are a whole lot better than what we have. So that's what I mean in like, there's a lot to uncover, and I'm not sure feel good films about being anti-racist are gonna cut it. We have to do real work about cognitive science and how our brains learn and how to store things in long-term memory, and attention to that kind of stuff, because that is a through line, a good thread that should be able to be woven throughout our methodology. And maybe it's something easier to understand than to always be reliant on a curriculum that might or might not have what we need. Sorry, I'll step off my soapbox now. Sorry about that.
No, honestly, like I was just since there's not that many of us here tonight, I'll say like I taught statistics in a department of education at a college nearby, and I found hard was that it's hard to do research in education, right? Like it's hard to isolate variables and test curriculum and things like that, and you know, get a great sense of like what is better, what are better options. And I don't say that to discount the fact that like, education in the United States has been studied now for like over 100 years, but like the flip side is that it's such qualitative research that it's hard to get um, a true sense. Often it's qualitative or mixed methods where it's hard to get a great sense of weighing things in terms of better. But that was again, that's sort of an aside. That's like I
and it's so true. The quality of research in the educational field is really tricky. I mean, it's hard to design great studies like that. However,
I mean, it
there
doesn't
is a
excuse it.
huge
It's just I'm just saying like
no, and I'm not saying that either, but however, there is a huge study that proves that direct instruction of like the Siegfried Engelmann kind of way is the only thing that ever worked. And this was a study done over many, many years in the 60s that that is that proved that it was the way to teach and get kids to learn, but it was buried because the government didn't feel right shoving one single method down people's throats, and there were no other winners. So the National Institute for Direct Instruction, NIFDI.org, has some nice information about that study that happened, and it was on poor kids and kids of color, and it was more effective than any other methodology. Has proven itself time and time again, but is unpopular because of various ideas of what it is. It's not a sage from the stage. It's not direct lecturing. What it is providing clear instruction and then checking for understanding and giving immediate feedback right away. So not letting misconceptions kind of brew and telling kids what they don't know and what they need to know, and not relying on them to discover it for themselves. And it's really a theory that there's nothing wrong with the kids. Instructional design can be modified and should be modified. It should be flexible enough to work with who's in the room. And so instead of blaming the families or the kids for not being able to learn, you look at the instructional design and modify it to fit the needs of your students. So it's hard work. Not gonna lie about that.
Well, again, thank you for going to this and for organizing other people and getting a broader base to attend. I think that's really great. Um, let's see. Do we want to move? I mean, that the big thing is again making sure that we push out again the information about this night and um, yeah. I mean, like Dice said, it's it just seems like we don't get fantastic attendance at our Monday meetings, and so the amount of effort it takes to bring Chris Albeck here for a handful of us seemed like, less helpful than just making sure that people were able to get out to these other meetings. If at some point it seemed necessary or helpful to have him come back, it's doable. It's just the coordinating and it's hard to be convincing.
I'll put as a follow-up note, I'll send it to the listserv a reminder, maybe it's Friday, about the Monday meeting. Yeah. Okay. You're muted, Rita.
That's what I get for bouncing between two different tabs. So our next agenda item is the update from the 2x2 collaborative about extended learning. If anybody, Di, was that the one that you went to or no?
No, so this
Okay.
I don't know if anyone here, Lou or Jennifer or Aaron, or Lindsay, if you have an update, but I have a message from Diana Mulligan, and she sent this to me. I'm going to read it out loud, just to give you her perspective, okay? Because she has been following this and working with various groups. So here's what she told me to report back. A group of concerned parents have met with Brazil and Kelly twice over the last 2 months. The extended care team has a new leader that started in January and reports directly to the assistant superintendent. Her name is Joya Bulk, Director of Categorical Programs and Special Projects. So Diane met with her one-on-one and had a very productive conversation on her experience and her plan for the first 90 days of her time in her new job. She is focusing her first quarter on understanding the current state of things and preparing a communications plan for fall 2026 enrollment cycle. She has also visited campus within the district. One specifically she is aware of is at Craigmont, to understand the unique challenges and safety issues that have happened on campus this last year. Example, the instance of 2 children aged 4 and 5 walking off campus during the Learns Day and being found by neighbors and parents. She is meeting with a group of parents across BUSD in the first week of February for an hour-and-a-half brainstorm on the future vision of extended care programs with BUSD. This group of parents includes many who have spoken at board meetings, 2x2, and extended care collaborative meetings over the past year. We are loosely being referred to as a group of concerned parents under the name Bridge the Care Gap for BUSD. So Diane says she's been personally actively talking with Joya, Brent Blackaby, Superintendent Ford Mathal, Jennifer Schnowski on all the above issues, and feel that this issue of scaling and improving communications related to extended care program is being seen as a priority by both BUSD and the city of Berkeley. So she seems a little more optimistic that there's some movement.
And I can also jump in on that. Been a part of the Bridge the Care Gap group and met with Councilmember Shinuski also kind of in that capacity. And yeah, and I've attended both of the latest collaborative meetings. Yeah, they've been productive. I would say I've come away from those meetings feeling at least optimistic. The problems are obviously complex and challenging when you get into, grant funding issues and just how we can, and the part-time positions that are relatively low paying and all the issues that we know about. But I've been encouraged to hear Joya's approach and just to get kind of real talk with Kelly in Brazil to figure out how we can plug in and help them continue to kind of meet the need, or at least coordinate better with the city of Berkeley where we can to get those programs and all that stuff kind of better coordinated so that's not that 11th hour or 12th hour craziness that any parents who have gone through that where it's the night before school starts and you have no idea if you're in aftercare or not. So that, again, feeling somewhat optimistic for now, but, we'll see what we can get done in the next couple months here because enrollment beginning is right around the corner in April. And then, that'll be kind of that mad sprint through the summer that staff mostly deals with. But encouraged by Joy's hiring and some of the hiring that honestly that the program has been able to do over the course of the school year already to dramatically increase capacity at some of the sites. So moving the right direction, but a long way to go still, I think.
That's fantastic to hear. That's great. And that might be, again, like maybe that's somebody who we do actually want to have come towards the end of this school year, if not the beginning of next year. After school is definitely something people show up for at these meetings.
This is Erin from Oxford. So we have an after school like PTA coordinator, who helps bridge that gap, at least between the PTA and our Learns group. If they're interested in joining that bridge the gap group, is that possible, or is it already kind of like a closed group?
Oh no, very much open. I can pass we're basically just loosely organized on a WhatsApp group. And I can
nice.
pass that link. Actually, let me hop over on my phone to that and I'll put the invite link in the chat here.
Amazing. Thank you.
And put in the chat and I'll make sure to put in the minutes as well.
Well, or maybe Lou, would you want people to contact you to get joined in, or do we want to put the?
No, people can jump right in. There's
okay.
A handful of us that are the most active, but I think we have something like 30 parents or 30
great.
people on the group. So a lot of people are just kind of listening in and following along. But then, we had, I think at the last collaborative meeting, we had 5 or 6 attendees from our group that all joined and had, again, productive conversations with Kelly and Brazil.
Wonderful. That's really great to hear. Okay, any other things about after school? Hi, Nicole, I just saw you join. Let's see, the next on here is this is beginning of the budget season. for P&O and for SBAC, and we've got notes from the joint committee. So Di, you were in on that, so I'll let you take it away. And I know SBAC starts tomorrow, so we'll be getting updates from that at our next meeting too.
Yeah, the superintendent had the joint committee meeting last week in Longfellow, and it was basically all the different, I think, committees to kind of set the stage on what the financial stage will look like this coming year. You know, they talked about, you know, I think it was a let's get together and let's put in the hard work, because everyone there obviously are volunteers, but just setting the stage of, you know, where we are, educating people about, you know, the different buckets of funds we have. There's the general fund, and there's all our BSEP funds, et cetera. Talking about how grants are expiring. And so some of the pressures that, you know, that we may have punted from last season to this semester, and some of their priorities of not going in the red and still keeping their values in mind when we as a SPAC and P&O and all our groups make recommendations, that we keep in mind all our values, you know, in BOC, trying to, you know, equity, excellence, et cetera, but also with the harsh truth that when you have to cut something or you want to keep something, something else is going to suffer. So anyway, I think the message there was, you know, thanks if schools can't get their representatives to SBAC or who does SSCs send to SBAC or P&O? Yeah, does every school have a representative? How does that?
Does every school have a representative at SBAC? No.
Or SBAC or P&O?
You get one. You get one. I mean, anybody can go to SBAC.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of someone voting, it's just one person.
Right.
Also, I'm sorry, it's Nicole. Also, it's for each like the PAC. Like PAC has a representative for that, and that's from all the schools, and it's the president for the PAC that is the representative at that meeting. So each smaller group also has representatives on there.
Yes. So I think, Jennifer, you wanted to speak on that?
I just wanted to say, just to add to that, or maybe clarify, all of the superintendents, like committees, subcommittees, and board subcommittees, they have a parent representative on those. And then the superintendent also has, I think, 2 appointees. There's like bylaws somewhere I could find and send them to you, Di, if you want.
That'd be great. Yeah, just to send information out.
I'll find that and send it.
I think the learning I came from that, because it is very overwhelming, understanding really the financial, how BUSD is put together financially. But us going back and encouraging our school representatives to participate, because it's going to be a tougher budget year. You know, BUSD is lucky in that what they reported is, one, we have our bonds, you know, our Prop H that funds our music and our art programs, and that those are pretty solid. Also, that the federal government, it only funds 2% of our federal budget, and so it's still important. You know, what's happening politically isn't totally going to affect us in a huge way, unlike other districts, and also outlining that what the PTA raises, again, we're close to raising $2 million for the school district, right? So that's important too. They're relying on that money as well. So we did have, I did want to share the deck that they gave to us if people want to kind of peruse through it. It's a lot of financial information, but I think it's important for folks to look at it. And again, when they participate, it's a lot of work, but looking at it, the deeper understanding, I thought the more meaningful advisory and recommendations people can give to make meaningful cuts or recommendations. So I'm going to share that right now. I'll share that in the minutes, I think, unless folks want to look at it right now.
If you can put it in the chat, that would be great.
Okay. Rita, did you want to talk about just starting budget and funding, about positions you were mentioning?
Oh, yes. So I guess this is really more just to create a bullet point that will get sent out. I think people who are in this meeting, this is already something that we're aware of, but um, March 15th is when staff get pink slipped if their contract or their position is not being renewed in exactly the same way for the next year. And the way PTAs play a role in this is that we are sometimes contributing funding. And if they don't have the check in their hands before then they pink slip. So on our end, the part that we can be helpful for is getting budgets sorted out for next year early and writing checks for any staff positions you may have, even partial funding for the next school year, so that if at all possible, we can have fewer pink slipped staff. So that was just, again, like, I have a feeling that everyone in this meeting right now probably knows that already, but it always is, not always. In the last several years, since we have been having to make budget cuts, it's been something on the radar that is helpful to think about sooner in the year rather than later. And, thinking about SBAC and the superintendent budget, we all as PTAs can start thinking about PTA budgets for the next school year as well. I think the guidance around that is actually that every several years you're supposed to have I think it's a finance committee or something like that, that reviews the budget as a group with teachers involved and, um, you know, to do a deeper dive and dig into budgets. So just again, these things do take time and it is helpful to get started early. Let me just see if there's anything else on our agenda for around that. Oh, we'll be having Matt join, I think, in a little while to just give an update. So we've got grants expiring. We also have teacher contract negotiations right now. So he was going to give us a bit of an update from the Berkeley Federation of Teachers. I guess I'm jumping though. I guess I read that in the wrong place. Okay, any other budget related issues we want to tack on here? Cell phone policy. Are there any action items that PTAs have taken based on what's been going on with the cell phone policy? Lindsay, I know this was something you were involved with as well, right?
Just ancillary.
Oh, okay.
But I know that the Longfellow PTA, did you go to that? They hosted their last PTA meeting and had a guest speaker who talked about cell phones and tech and the adolescent brain.
Right. I didn't attend that. No, I think King
I
had
got an update and it did not seem like the principal was aware of the policy changes. And students have reported that phones are alive and well in hallways and lunchtime and so on and so forth. And that there has been no change in the habits and policies of the school.
Well, that's discouraging, but
Sorry, you can always rely on me for good news.
Well, I mean, but maybe that's the call out, right? There's policy and then, oh, let's implement it. Jennifer, you had your hand up.
I just wanted to ask, during board meeting where we passed the cell phone policy, we asked for like a review and an update this spring. So I'll put that on my list too, to make sure that that's actually happening. And we can, I'm happy to ask the question like, so how are we sharing this policy and how is it being implemented and how do we know and stuff like that? Because I agree with Lindsay. The kids are using cell phones at school, including my kid.
yeah, Nicole.
I thought they were having another session of input because I know we had the district meeting with the elementary and middle school parents. There was an open meeting and forum, kind of a panel forum really and feedback. And then they're supposed to be doing one on the high school. So I thought nothing had really been implemented really officially yet because of those inputs hadn't happened.
We passed the policy, but then there was supposed to be more input for the high school piece of it, because there's different ideas about how it should be implemented at the high school. But we did implement a ban for K-8, and I don't think that is really being implemented.
Well, I thought the middle school wouldn't change. I thought they were similar, King was gonna keep the policy that they've already instituted from.
No, the policy we passed was a bell to bell ban,
That's what they were
K-8.
doing. They were already doing bell to bell at King. Okay, so the basic
Maybe Mr.
King, but
Maybe
King was
Mr.
already doing.
Tisan Yi is ahead of the times.
Yeah, they were already doing bell to bell. They instituted that when he's like last year, I think it was.
Yeah, I think some of the schools were doing it, but it wasn't the policy yet.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so, Jennifer, is there any news on, details of how it's going to be implemented at the middle schools? Is there going to be another session? We haven't heard anything more from Yasmina.
I'm not sure when the next listening session is, but my understanding when we during the board meeting discussion and what my intention was when we passed it was that we were going to actually make sure that there was a bell to bell, because I think even though de facto there might have been a policy, it's unevenly implemented. And so my understanding was we were going to implement it at the middle schools and then kind of look at lessons learned to see how we could expand that to the high schools. And we were going to have an update to the board at some point to do that and review the high school policy and how to implement that.
But there would be another step of looking at the middle school and figuring out in that meeting back in December, people talked about various different options, the pouches, lockers, and, like you said, the policy exists. I know it's there at Willard, it's at King, but it's not, being fully adhered to say the least.
Right, but I don't think we were exploring the yonder pouches and those things for the middle school. The listening sessions and those explorations were for the high school, because at the middle school, in theory, you have advisory, so it's much simpler, right, for the kids to put their phones, to have their phones in one of those pockets on the wall or whatever, and then they come get them later or whatever, or have the classroom teachers do it. It's just more complicated at the high school. That was my understanding. So when we were costing out the yonder pouches and all that stuff, we were really costing it out for just the high school. How much will this cost to implement at the high school? But I agree that it has not been fully implemented at the middle schools.
Right. And, is that policy of, everybody leaves their phone in a pouch in their advisory teacher's room for the whole day?
Well, my understanding right now is that they just have to have it off. The phones are supposed to be off. They're not being confiscated.
And do we think there's going to be any change to that process?
I'm not sure. Honestly,
Okay.
I'm not sure. But I'm happy to ask how the implementation of the policy is being rolled out.
Yeah, that would be super, super helpful if we can just get some kind of update.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
I will do that. And if whatever I can get, I will send to Di to share with all of you.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, of course.
Okay. Anything else on cell phones before we move along? Okay, next on our agenda is Sanctuary City Task Force training school watch patrols. Is there um, any updates here that we want to check in about, discuss?
I left that on the item on the agenda just because it was a follow-up. There were a couple of parents who wanted to collaborate to kind of support each other and but also find a way to I guess resources, because BUSD, they're not, experts in how to address some of these issues. And I think they were hoping to, partner with the Sanctuary City Task Force and provide some resources and training to folks who are interested in the community, forming pods or just kind of addressing some of the fears that had come up, and rightfully the concerns with ICE. I reached out to one of our OFIs, Carol, and asking her if she wanted to help provide an update. And her feedback is, unfortunately, she doesn't want misinformation out there, because that's also the horrible side of it. If we give out wrong information, we spur panic and fear. So she recommended that if we did have enough interest, that we would actually ask someone to come speak who knows firsthand what's going on and how we might be able to support our community. So I guess that's the latest update I have about that topic. If anyone else has some input or thoughts around this, I'd appreciate it.
I can just give a quick update. At John Muir, actually, we had our staff kind of, forget what her unofficial title is through the union, but kind of immigration, it's our immigrant ambassador. My wife just gave me a heads up from the other room. So we have started, independent of the PTA and independent of anyone in an actual staff functionality, putting the kind of word out to community members and parents through our email newsletter. And we are sending people to some of the online trainings that groups in Oakland are doing, at least as a starting place. And then we're going to get together and formulate kind of what our plan is. So more resources would be appreciated if we can get them, of kind of what's working, what's not working, places that have been directly impacted. That thankfully hasn't been a major thing here in Berkeley yet, but we will see. So, but yeah, that's the process that we're embarking on now, is just starting to pull some people in, take advantage of some of the trainings that are out there, and then start talking about what our plan for foot patrols could be.
I wonder too if, that could be something that gets sort of information brought back here so that other interested schools could, I mean, it might even be something where if you're going to trainings that are happening in Oakland, that clusters of PTA families from different schools might be really interested in doing that. That's a really great idea.
Yeah, and these are all online. I can give me 1 sec. I can grab the dates and links that we have surfaced so far, just as another resource to potentially direct people through your channels.
Thank you. Okay, I think we just have a couple items left here, and it's we're only at 8:15, which is great. The only last two things are the contract negotiations update and the treasurer report. Um, is there anything else, Di, that you wanted to make
No,
time for?
those were my bullet points. Yeah.
Okay, and I think Matt is not joining for a few more minutes. Let me look. Um, sorry. Again, I'm not as fast at all of this as I could be, I'm sure,
I
but
can jump on the one point about the treasurer's report.
oh,
Earlier,
okay.
Lou had asked about our per cap. Sorry, I think there were a couple of emails that went out that were a little confusing, but I think as of tonight, we are up to date. Mendisa is turning over the check over to Peralta, so I think all our units should be in good standing until you hear from us further. So no action for everybody until you hear any further, but I think we should be in the clear with Peralta for our per caps.
Okay, and Matt didn't respond back, so, and we had just said between 7:30 and 8:45. So I don't know, maybe let me see if I can resend him the link so that we're just sure at least that he has
I
it.
did send him our meeting
Oh, you
link.
did?
Yeah, and maybe
Okay.
I'll follow up with them. He emailed on Friday, and I responded
For sure.
today, and he's got a couple little ones at home too. So maybe our next meeting, I'll set up some time with him for him just to give us an update.
Jennifer, is that something that you have any information on from the other side that you'd be willing to share? Maybe that's not something.
Sorry, it took me a minute to unmute.
That's
I
okay.
can't really talk about it because it's all closed session stuff.
Okay,
So I got to be careful.
Sure.
totally understand.
Well, I know one thing I learned from the Joint Budget Committee meeting was the current budget that's been passed does not include the recommendations for teachers' increase of salary and benefits. So as they negotiate, and if if we're going to pay for salary increases, something else has to give. Healthcare costs, cost of living, all that stuff. It's a big part of the budget. So knowing that that is not currently in the past budget, it's going to put pressures on all our other programs that we might have to cut, or projects we might have to cut. So
And I
Jennifer,
can tell you on that, just like a number sort of to keep in mind is a 1% raise is about $1 million. So it's just kind of a good number to have in mind.
right. Can I ask Jennifer, like, is there any sense coming from what you know coming from the state about what their expectations around cost of living increase will be?
Oh my God, the state is actually messing with Prop 98 money in a really funky way in the governor's budget.
Can you
That
tell me, like, as if I'm brand new to the scene, tell me what Prop 98 is?
Okay, I'm so sorry. So Prop 98 is the proposition, the bill that basically guarantees funding for K-12 and community colleges in the state of California. And so in theory, Prop 98 is supposed to be a basement, like a floor to what the schools receive. But lately it's complicated and the details don't really matter, but last year and this year, they're essentially holding back a portion of the Prop 98 money because they're worried they won't get it all. And it's this weird accounting thing that could potentially cost us about $8 million in funding this year. So I know that, the unions, the BFT, BCCE, and then their parent union, the CFT, are all working to try and eliminate that, but that's like an extra complication.
That is complication.
Yeah, and then the budget, I think it was a 2.4% COLA, which is less than what they had projected last year. And of course, the COLA that the state gives us is not actually a true cost of living adjustment. And so it doesn't keep up with costs, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And the next update on the budget from the state won't happen until May. So there's the
So
thing
how
called
are
the May
they?
revise.
I
Exactly.
know,
That's
but
why this is all crazy. Yeah. I'm with you, Rita. I'm with you.
how are we
Can you
supposed to
help
put
with the door?
together a budget? I mean, So superintendent SBAC got moved to Tuesdays, I think, and so I'm not able to join, but like I questioned how to work on proposing stuff for next year when they just don't know, you know? It's like you have to make several models instead of one, maybe.
That is one of the problems, and that's also why we tend to do so many pink slips,
Yeah,
right?
of
Which
course.
is like really terrible. And yeah, I think we all hate that because, yeah, I mean, people's livelihoods are in question.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a terrible system. And we don't actually know the real budget until June 30th.
Right. No, it's all, yeah. Mm. Okay. Good times. Um, well, I think the only other thing of note, and again, I know this is a small crew here tonight. Di and I were elected this last fall for 2-year terms, but Mandisa was elected the year before for a 2-year term, and so hers ends this year. And so, oh, you have a question about pink slips. Go ahead. We're
Yeah.
still talking. Let's talk pink slips.
Well, no, I just when Pink Slips came out 2 years ago, I guess that was the first time that my PTA really interacted around it. And they started signing petitions for the teachers. And I was wondering if that makes a difference. Because it feels like it's kind of like a process that has to play out. And so I'm wondering what information I should give to the parents who get really worried and don't necessarily understand that, you know,
Yeah.
way more pink slips does not equate not having a job. It could mean it, but it's not
It
a
might mean
final,
it
and
might mean a
they,
cut to
yeah,
the job, like in less hours or something.
right,
It could mean a lot of different things, and it could mean absolutely nothing.
right,
And so I think to me, if they're uh, worried and motivated, send them to SBAC to
okay,
listen, because that is first off. I will just put out there that it's a bit of a learning curve because you're basically sitting in on a meeting with many factions who all have different interests in the budget, right? I know, and you know, Jennifer, you'd be able to speak to this way better than me, but I mean, I think there's at least 4 different unions who have people attending there, maybe
Yeah.
3. And it's and then there's also different parent factions, and you know, it's just, and it's advisory. So, you
Yeah.
know, the superintendent is going to do what she's going to do, and that and with to that end, then it goes to the school board, right? So, you know, first off, the budget advisory committee is like they take public comment at the beginning if you can log in and get your request for public comment in. That is a good avenue to take if you really actually want to make change. The last 2 years that I've been involved, it's often been people trying to speak towards the importance of the garden program, speak towards the importance of their after school coordinators or after school staff. You know, and I don't know, you know, again, like it's in a year when, again, like we care about paying teachers a living wage so they can stay in Berkeley, right? Like that's important. We care about um, valuing our teachers and having them be compensated appropriately, especially when you consider, like, I want to say, was it West Contra Costa County and then maybe Oakland, the 2 unions nearby who just won pretty big.
Not Oakland yet. They're about
Not
to go on
Oakland.
strike.
Gotcha. Thank you. West Contra Costa. Right. So like knowing that there are settlements afoot, that may be a bigger part of our budget, recognizing that there may be budget cuts that do affect programming within our schools. Jennifer, please.
I just wonder, Rita and Di, would you guys want to work with me to just do a quick like 1-pager that just sort of like outlines some of the details? Because I didn't see the name of the person that made the comment and asked the question, but you know, it's like I think it is really weird. People don't understand the budget and all the constraints on the budget. So what if we put together just a really simple
We have one that we do at the meeting at the end of August, at the beginning of the year
Okay.
every year. And maybe, you know, if we sent that to you, maybe you could edit it and tell us if there's stuff we're missing out on. But like to my mind, uh petitioning you know, it's not, as far as I can tell. Yes, there are decisions in terms of spending that happen at school site committees, and so there might be some influence there to be made. And the other place, like I said, would be, I think, in trying to do public comment at SBAC or public comment at school board. But it's also like there's limitations. The other thing would be, you know, again, we've got oh crap, we do have money coming in through the city of Berkeley through the parcel tax in addition, right? And it could be that there needs to be an additional parcel tax, right? So there might be movement to be made as parents in a direction that actually helps funding things. So if they want to put, if they have the capacity to take their worry and put it towards put it in a direction, that might be helpful. Lindsay, please jump in.
I just wanted to point out that the West Contra Costa unions did strike and did gain quite an increase of percentage, more than the state had said that the district could afford. And now they're in the process of cutting $60 million from their budget. So as you know, and as we all know here, everything has consequences.
Yeah.
So we have a finite amount of resources, and what goes in one pot comes out of another pot. And
100%.
so I just want us to all be aware that like teaching and learning is the core function of our schools, and anything that we can do to preserve that would be great. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be able to protect all positions all the way. So when we go out and protest or petition to save this or that person, keeping the bigger picture in mind, if everybody supports this upcoming strikes, and people get percentage compensations that are, you know, good, and I believe that our educators are not paid enough for what they do. That's undenied, but it will come from somewhere else. So Contra Costa is cutting 10% of their teachers and support staff, and across the board, those positions are getting cut
You know,
because of
it
that
it
negotiation.
it brings me back to, I had that conversation, I think 2 years ago, and Jennifer, I'll get to you after I say this, if you don't mind. But the principal, Ruth Actie, who was the one at the time had the best achievement gap, said that they actually, you know, their Prop 23 money goes towards 4th and 5th grade performing arts as physical education, and that they don't do any other extras, that their educational time is spent on they don't do extra art, they don't do any other, I mean, they have the music program, of course, but like there aren't other things taking up their class time. And she thought that that was a big part of why their achievement gap was better.
They
Um,
still have less than 10%. The non-poor kids read and do math at 90%, and the kids of socioeconomic disadvantage read and do math around 82%. So she still has the smallest achievement
yeah,
gap of all of our schools. She's
but
doing
she
amazing
thought that
work.
she thought a big part of that was was the secret sauce of that was not having all the extras that some of the other schools have. And as much as I love having extra dance and extra right performing arts, I don't know. It's an interesting concept. It's an interesting thing to think about. Jennifer, please, you've had your hand up for ages. I'm sorry.
Oh, please don't be sorry. It's an interesting conversation. I just wanted to mention, like, if people are really wanting to do advocacy, the place to advocate is at the state. I mean, California is the 4th largest economy in the world. Then within the top 10 of per pupil spending since Prop 13. So if we really like want to figure out budget issue. It's really advocating at the state level and getting a coalition of pissed off parents and kids to go to the Capitol and say that you do not accept it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What was the school you said that has the smallest achievement gap? And
Ruth
is there
Acton.
like a okay, I have heard that before.
Yeah, and I asked her if she wanted to come here and talk, and she said that she's already not popular with parents at her school because she does things this way. She was hilarious, by the way. But yeah, so I mean, and that wasn't the only thing that they do. They do a couple other things a little differently, and I think it's being absorbed. I mean, it's something that I know was in discussions at our element at BAM. So I know that that's something that's sort of more openly talked about. So other schools are adopting some of the things that she does as well.
Does she have like a write up, or is that chart like information on this philosophy, or you know what I mean? Like if you do this, then you know this is how you can achieve what she's achieved. Do you know what I mean? Like has she written this anywhere?
In the past, success has gotten tamped down and knocked down in the effort to be equitable across schools. So it is smart of her to keep her profile low. But I put in a chart that a friend made for us using state smarter balance data over the years by school, and you can check it out. It's all sorted by economic status, because I think that's the best way to see what our schools are actually doing for our kids and what's parent supplementation, or what might be, advantages of having time or resources to teach your own kids and support them more than normal,
Thank you. I guess I'm also wondering, I mean, so if you're not spending money on art and dance, like, is that money going towards extra support staff instead, or do they just have a
They
smaller
use
budget?
data informed practices, and so they use all their instructional minutes for instruction and intervention. So
it was less about making decisions around money and more around making decisions around instructional minutes. At least that was from my conversation.
I see.
And then the only money component that she talked with me about was that okay, thank you for joining, Jennifer. The only money component she talked with me about was that the part about the arts funding, right? Because we get extra arts funding now. That has to be used in certain ways, because in addition to being funding for public school arts programs, it's actually also for jobs in the arts, which is teaching jobs in the arts. That's great. But it's that bill was written both those ways, right? So they spend their arts funding money on performing arts as a means of doing PE, as opposed to doing other kinds of arts, right? That's just and so that pays for PE, which other schools PTAs sometimes pay for PE teachers, or right, or school teachers do the PTAs. School teachers do the PTAs.
I can give you a counter example, Erin. At Cragmont, because the PTA and Prop 28 pay for an art teacher and art class for all grades for 45 minutes each week, and the ELA blocks, the English language arts blocks, needed more time this year because of the new curriculum. The 4th and 5th graders lost their library time. So now our 4th graders only get to go to library every other week in favor of drawing suns and flowers in crayon. So that's an example of a misuse of instructional minutes, in my opinion. Art has a place in our schools and in our classrooms, but not at the expense of other learning. and library time. I was kind of shocked.
Okay. Yeah, this is helpful. Thank you.
And, I think as PTA members, this is not necessarily something we have direct influence on, but for those who are on school site committees, that might be a venue again to work in that direction. So again, for parents who are pissed and motivated, that's a good place to try and make change for your school. Okay. Anything else? Oh, I was going to say, okay. So again, Di and I were elected for 2-year terms. We started in the fall of 2025. So we've got another year and a few months, a year and 4 months on our terms. But Mandisa's term ends at the end of this year. In order to have PTA council, we need somebody to be council treasurer. And I personally think it would be best for somebody who already is a treasurer now and is not going to be one for their school's PTA next year and has the bandwidth to do this. There's sort of maybe 3 points over the course of the year where it's really, there's some navigation that needs to happen. Previous council treasurers have also had a monthly work group meeting where they sort of it's almost like holding an office hour so that people can log in and ask questions and get support if they're new treasurers on, getting some extra training as needed. So if anybody knows anybody, if anybody's willing, if anybody has some bandwidth, if you're finishing out your treasurer term or know someone who is and would be interested in doing this. If not, PTA council kind of will then, what happens then is that without a PTA council, it's a direct report, I believe. Everything goes directly to Peralta, which is sort of the next level above us. So and there ceases to be all this any of the meetings or any of the dissemination of information or any of the other things that we try and do. So, if it's meaningful to have this as a venue, then thank you, Lou. That's great. But if it's meaningful to have this, then we need to have someone step into that role. Don't have to have been a treasurer, but it does help.
And Rita and I are happy to walk that person through and provide them support. I mean, they don't have to come to these meetings, but it's nice too to be able to provide a treasurer's report. But really, Rita and I need support in doing all the, treasurer administrative stuff to support Peralta and their demands of, the per caps, filing our tax return, which is straightforward. All the regular stuff PTA treasurers have to do, we also have to do at the council level. So it's a handful of hours, it's manageable, but we do need a person to step up and take that role.
And there needs to be those 3 roles filled for us
Yeah.
to continue.
Yep. So Rita and I have been trying to recruit. So if you guys can reach out to your network, get them to touch base with me or Rita, that would be lovely.
Would it be possible? Could you or have Mandisa write up a few bullet points on the kind of the specifics of what's needed? That would be helpful if there is a resource somewhere that I could just direct people to. That would be helpful.
Sure, I could actually post that. Hey, like a job posting. This is what we need. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that suggestion.
I think too, Lou, the one other component I'll say is it kind of can be more of a job if you want it to be and less of a job if you can't. Like at its bare minimum, it's the filing of per caps and the taxes and that sort of thing.
Keeping the lights on type stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And at its most sophisticated, several years ago, Olivia and Di and I and Hollis put together like a comparison of PTA budgets across schools so that we could look across elementary schools at spending per child, at spending in different areas.
Yeah, more of that kind of meta analysis stuff that you could do it at the council level. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Or
And I don't know. I don't think that that is necessarily something that needs to happen every year.
Sure.
But it hadn't happened before until, Olivia spearheaded that, I think. And Scott and Taesung as well, I think, made that more of a push at the time. So, it would be something, especially as we all schools are spending more and more year over year as on their from their PTAs, right? Like, having that be something that's voiced is helpful. You know, $2 million is 2% of our school district's budget, but that's nothing to sneeze at, right? And I have a feeling that 2 million was from what, 2 years ago. It is likely a good chunk more than that now.
Yep, that makes sense. Okay.
So all right. Okay. Well, I think that is wrapping us up today. Anyone else want to jump in about anything? Anyone else have? I mean, I don't know that we have big agenda. Hey, Scott.
Hey,
I don't know we have agenda items for next meeting, but we're open to ideas. And again, I would like to get the new after school person in maybe before the end of this year. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Just saying hi.
yes, just saying hi. I think it would be great to hear from the after school person.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not an understatement at how important and valuable after school programming is to
Yep.
our kids and families. So, yeah. All right. Well, I guess we will leave it here for tonight, everyone. Thanks all for joining.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
I always like to end. Thank you all for your hard work. We're all volunteers.
Yes.
Your energy is so appreciated. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good night.
Bye.